Jason, would you please let us know what Ken would like us to pay attention to?
Certainly. Ken, just to clarify, you want to go for the project number 2?
2.
Great. So project number 2 is organise your speech. Do you want me to just read out the objectives?
Sure.
Select an appropriate outline which allows listeners to easily follow and understand your speech. Make your message clear with supporting material directly contributing to that message. Use appropriate transitions when moving from one idea to another. Create a strong opening and conclusion. The time is 5 to 7 minutes.
Thank you. So Ken is going to be our next speaker, ice rebreaker, because he has given this icebreaker before. So ice rebreaker, Ken.
If you were to ask me, knowing I moved here from New York City, perhaps while we were standing in the back and having a forbidden cup of coffee, how is my life in Chicago here compared to the life I had in New York? I would tell you that my life in Chicago is much better, much richer, much fuller than anything I lived in New York. I might even tell you, if you press, that it didn't start that way. It actually started out with me sleeping on the carpet in a completely bare, empty apartment for 3 days. Has that ever happened to you? You start out on something new, you think you're leading a new and glorious life, and you find yourself sleeping on a carpet in the cold. Some of you I know have moved here from other countries with all kinds of aspirations and hopes, and discovered the carpet like I did. And perhaps wonder, just as I did, what has come of my life? So let me tell you how that happened. I'd gotten a new job here in Chicago, perfect job for me. My prior job at Princeton was ending. There were events that made me look for a new position. I received a good offer here as a tenured full professor at UIC, perfect for me. I was promised a lot of money to start up a new lab, just what I needed. My marriage in New York ended, just what I needed. And it was an opportunity to start fresh in a new city. The movers came to my apartment. That was paid for. Great. The movers proceeded to pack my things, which meant dumping stuff in boxes, but I was cool about it. It was free. I wasn't paying for it. And I arranged with the driver of the moving van to arrive in Chicago at the same time as the van did, because I was driving out from New York in my car with 2 or 3 suitcases in the car filled with some clothes and just a few things I needed. Got here to Chicago, got the keys to my new place in Presidential Towers, went upstairs, saw this beautiful, big, expansive apartment, much bigger than anything I had in New York, 22nd floor, nice view. I said, this is the life. This is cool. This is what I wanted. And I was on my way to the new beginning. Everything was going fine until I got the call. The movers were late. They'd be there in 2 or 3 days. No problem. I had my suitcases with stuff in them, enough toiletries, enough clothes, until that evening when I realized I don't have a bed. I don't have a blanket. I don't have sheets. I don't have a pillow. And that's how I ended up sleeping on the carpet floor, huddled under my coat, with my rolled up clothes under my head, saying, what have I done to my life? What has happened to me? Well, little did I realize that that rather inauspicious beginning was part of a larger metaphor for what my life in Chicago was going to be about. Does that ever happen to you, where sometimes something starts out in one way, looks kind of not very encouraging, and the next thing you know, it actually had positive aspects to it? Well, in my case, being in that bare apartment was a metaphor for the life I was going to have in Chicago, which was mine to fill. So over the next 15 years, I've been here since 1996, I started filling my life in Chicago, just like I eventually filled that apartment in Presidential Towers. I took the money they gave me, I built a world-class lab devoted to the chemistry of fuels combustion, studying how fuel molecules break down with the goal of making fuels burn cleaner and greener. Became a world-renowned facility. I attracted money and students. It was a great success for me here in Chicago, something I didn't quite have when I lived in New York. I also took up Argentine tango dancing. I'd always liked dancing. Found I had the time and opportunity to dance, put myself into it, and got so good at it I could dance any place, anytime, with anyone, maybe some of you. Oh yeah, you dance the tango?
I will.
All right. All right. Okay. I even took up my lifelong, but I admit completely irrational interest in boxing. I'm at a university, but I love boxing. I studied boxing, went to gym, trained hard, and you see before you now, as a result of all that training, the amateur two-time world champion in my age and weight for boxing. Something that came to me in Chicago as I filled that open and bare, to be filled life in Chicago. I've even said, but maybe we'll talk a little bit privately about this. In the 15 years I've been here in Chicago, I've even managed to have some mind-expanding and heart-opening romances. But like I said, that's something maybe a little later, okay? Maybe over another cup of coffee. And lastly, I'm here before you tonight, having recently joined Toastmasters, to learn to speak in such a way that my words sing. So, my answer is that my life in Chicago is much fuller, much richer than any life I ever had in New York. And I've done it by filling the available space that was made available to me by moving to Chicago, in much the same way that that first night in the empty apartment was but a metaphor for how I was going to fill the time and space here in Chicago before my baggage arrived from New York. Thank you.